What's going on, guys? I'm Bill and welcome to Bill's How To. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to fix a hole in the door. Let's get straight into it, guys. Let's do this. That's how to patch a hole in the door from start to finish. Alright guys, so today I'm going to show you how to fix a hole in the door. It's a very common problem. This one here is a door that I've replaced for a customer, and you can see somebody's tried to repair this one here. Very bad job. You can see how weak it is. It's built up horribly, hasn't been sanded properly. You can see a bit of sticky tape as well, which looks like they tried to bridge the gap with sticky tape and then fill over the top, and a bit of spray paint over the top. So 99% of the times I'll replace the door and I won't repair it because it involves too much time, too much money to fill the hole in and to repair it. I'm going to show you guys a cheap way that you can do it if you did really want to fix a hole in the door. If it's a small hole, nice and simple, I honestly will repair it if the customer wants that. Something like this, I won't waste my time and energy. I've got about 5 videos on YouTube that'll show you step by step how to replace a door, and I'd recommend you do that. But if you're insistent on fixing a hole, I'm going to show you guys the cheapest and easiest way to do it. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is expose the original damaged area. I'm trying to peel off this masking tape here, but it doesn't want to come off in one go. So it looks like the masking tape here is the strongest part of this repair. I'm going to scrape it all back. I don't want to create any more damage than was originally there. I just want to expose the original damage and see what we can do to fix it. Alrighty, so it looks like we've exposed the whole area. Looks like the crack starts from here and ends right here, and it's just the crack that's running all the way down. Now we do have to remove all this adhesive here, which is all from the sticky tape. But what I'm going to do first is I'm actually going to cut this section here out, give me a little bit less area that needs to be sanded, because I need to get this one relatively clean and smooth before I start, so that I have something decent to work with. Now it is a little bit lumpy, so I might have to bring it out just a little bit more. Doesn't matter what shape it's in. You can see this one here is going to be a super large patch. You don't want to go down too deep because there's a honeycomb center here, core. And we want to try to keep that intact because that's going to help reinforce everything once we fill it. So we're almost done. I might even be able to snap that one there off if I can get it to just lift. Alright, and there we have it. Looks like they actually did use expanding foam. Actually, that explains the lump and the bump that was on the edge. What they must have done is used like a triple expanding foam, overshot it inside, and then it's just pushed out that bubbled area, which explains why you had to patch out so far out. If I can pull this foam out, I'll pull it out. But this is probably the most common method that you'll find online that a lot of people like to show you how to do. Actually, I'll just leave it in there. It's not going to change my process anyway. But what most people like to do is to just create a little hole, spray expandable foam. So this here is expandable foam. Just simply put on the nozzle, spray it in the back, and that'll expand, fill in that void. And then what people do is they patch over the top. Now, I personally don't like using expandable foam. I find it very, very messy and difficult to use. The rate that it expands is a little bit different as well. But I'm going to show you guys the way that, like I said, was a cheaper option. So what we do, clean it all out first. I can even cut some of this out. So the reason why I'm cutting out this foam here is because the method that I use, I need to be able to get the product in behind as well. So you fill in the void, you want to make sure you get that product in and underneath that lip there, and then we're going to go over the top as well. So what that's going to do is it's going to reinforce it from the back and the front. Otherwise, if you only fill it on one side, and you just fill in that main area right here. If somebody taps on it from the back, that material is just going to want to pop straight back out. So you have to reinforce it by pushing that material in under that lip, and that'll lock in all the way around and also on the top. All right, that should do it. We've got plenty of clearance now. Almost half my finger can fit underneath. All right, so the next thing we do is we take the utility knife and we're just going to create a little beveled edge. Just a small one on the edge there. That's going to help the product sit inside, and it's going to give it a little recess, so it's going to go inside and it's going to bridge straight over the top of that. At the same time, we're getting rid of any flaky material. Now before we fill it, we're going to take our sandpaper and we're going to get rid of any of this adhesive that's around the edges, any of the little bits of filler that we can still see, and also any of those contaminants. We're going to run it on the edge as well. Make sure 100% we've got no loose material there. So that's all feeling pretty good now. You wouldn't have to do that usually, but because of all the sticky tape this person used, we had to give it a bit of a sand. So now we're ready to start our patching. All right guys, so now it's time to fill in the hole. Like I said, there's a whole range of different materials that you can use to fill this hole in. You can use expanding foam, which I personally don't like. I find it a bit messy to work with. You can use a whole range of different fillers. Once again, they're very, very expensive. They set very nice and hard, but to fill in a hole, especially around this size, which is bigger than my hand, it's going to cost you a fair bit. So my little secret is right here, a bag of cornice cement. A lot of people don't realize that cornice cement is kind of like WD-40. It's got its original intended purpose, which is to fix cornices to gyprock or to plasterboard. But this one here works very, very well for patching holes as well. It's like WD-40 has its intended purpose, but it can be used for a variety of different things. The upside about the cornice cement is all this honeycomb cardboard that's in here. It's going to stick to it and it's going to adhere to it as well. So we're going to be able to reinforce everything inside using the honeycomb core here, making sure to get everything in and under that door. That's going to help reinforce it and stabilize it once again. So before I patch this door right here, I'm going to quickly do something a little bit random up here, so you guys can in fact compare whatever squiggle that is and make sure that this is the actual door and I haven't picked up a new one and shown you guys a new door. So that's a little bit of proof for you guys of how well this stuff works, how well we can get the door back to brand new. Let's mix up some of this cornice cement and we'll start filling it in. So I've got my cornice cement mixed up. I've intentionally made it a little bit thicker than I usually would. That means it's going to dry just that little bit faster. Now we're going to take some of this and we're just going to push it all inside. That's the first thing we're going to do. Make sure we're getting that all underneath the door, and we're going to get it exactly where we need it to, so we can hook in and reinforce under that door as well. And make sure whatever you do, don't overfill it in terms of height. The reason for that is cornice cement is like a base coat. It's not really a base coat, but I do use it as a base coat a lot of the times because it sets harder, it sets stronger, but it's absolutely horrible if you have to sand it. So this one here is looking pretty good for a first coat. We're going to let it sit for about 30 to 40 minutes. It should almost be set at that point. We're going to come back with the joint knife and we're just going to skim that top section off. So we're not going to have to sand it. We just want to get it reasonably flat. And then we're going to repeat the process on a second and third coat. Just to prove it once again, we've got a little random squiggle here that you guys can compare with to make sure that this is in fact the door that we're working on. So these are two little samples that I left out on the side to show you guys. They are absolutely rock hard, super lightweight, and this one here is pretty thick. It's actually thicker than the door here. And the upside about that is if you pay attention, you'll notice there's no little cracks, no shrinkage, and that's one of the upsides to this product. Because it's very lightweight, it's not going to affect the balance in the door. It's not going to add any extra weight to the door that's not needed. Nice little product, good little trick, and I'll show you guys what it looks like after our first coat. So it's been about 20 to 30 minutes now. It's firm to the touch. However, I can still feel that it's soft. I'm a little bit impatient, so we're going to take our joint knife and we're just going to remove any of that high spot. I can feel it. It's a little bit higher than the actual door, so we're going to bring it back nice and flat using our joint knife here. Just simply scrape it through. And you can see it's still soft there. So the finish isn't going to be very good. But it's a lot better than sanding. So just a bit of a close-up for you guys on our first coat. This is what it's looking like so far. We've got at least 2 more coats and we're going to start perfecting everything now. So we're going to bring everything out a little bit wider as we go. And with this stuff, corner cement is very, very difficult to sand. So you want to put multiple thin layers and sand in between coats, and don't put one big thick coat and try and sand it down, because you're always going to be left with a hard edge. So just put in multiple thin coats and sand it in between. So now it's time for our second coat. We're going to fill in that middle section, trying to get that as flat as possible. And we're also going to work on these edges. So this here is probably the most important part. If you want to just work on your edges, because that's going to give away everything. That's looking pretty good. We're going to leave that as is. Alright, so this is now the second coat, almost completely dry. You can still see a little bit of darker sections here where it's still a little bit wet, but that is looking much better already. We're going to give it a little bit of a sand because there are a few bubbles here. You can see there are little bubbles everywhere. Might have been a bit too much water in the last mix, but that doesn't matter anyway. We're going to give it a quick sand with 120 grit sandpaper, just a light one to take off these imperfections, and then we'll give it a third coat, and we might even give it a fourth. We'll just see how we go. 120 grit. Using a sanding block is probably better, but what I like to do is just use it in my hand. I get a better feel of what's happening. Keep it on there super light and your fingers are barely on there. You're just running it flat over the top. So we'll just take a rag, wipe off that excess dust, and now we're going to give it a third coat. Once again, repeat the same process. We're going to bring it out a bit wider this time. Once again, we'll let this one here dry. So the third coat is now dry, ready for sanding. If I run my hand over the top, I can feel a little bit of a lump right here. So I'm going to sand it, see how it comes up. I might have to do a fourth coat, but I won't know until I sand it. So once again, 120 grit sandpaper on this coat here. And then if we do need a fourth coat, we'll end up sanding it with probably 240. Yeah, I think I'll give it one more coat, clean off all this dust first, give it one more final coat, bring it out a touch wider, and then we'll be using 240 grit, so super thin layer this time. Looks like there's a bit of a chunk in there somewhere. Alright, so that's looking a bit better now. Once again, let that one there dry. Because it's a very thin coat, it should only take about 20 minutes or so to dry. Alright, so our fourth coat is now dry. We're going to take 240 grit sandpaper this time, and we're just going to go super lightly once again over the top, but we want to mainly focus on the edges, make sure we don't have any hard edges. Alright, so this one here is now complete on our fourth and final coat. I'll show you guys the finish. If I really wanted to, I could give it one more coat and just really tie that in. But that is looking unreal. Compared to the big hole that we had here, somewhere around bigger than the size of my hand, this one here is looking pretty good. That's the original paintwork. And that's all the patchwork. So you can see the transition. We actually can't see the transition, which is the whole point. Now, if you really wanted to go over the top, what you can do is take a straight edge, drop that over the top, and look for any light, which we don't have at the moment. We've got a perfect little transition there. That is looking real good. Very happy with that. That is, honestly, I don't think I could have got it any better. And once everything's complete, this here is the finished product. Now there's no way you'd be able to tell there was a hole in the door, especially one that was the size of my hand. I'll bring the door in closer for you guys so you can inspect it as much as you like. That is looking absolutely beautiful. Now we've still got my little signature that's up on top here so that you guys can assess it and make sure it is in fact the same door. The amount of effort that goes into repairing a door, honestly not worth it. The only time I'd suggest it is if you've got a specific type of door that's been in your house and you can't get a replacement for it or it's too expensive. This here is then a good option to repair it. Now what I'm going to do is, because a lot of people tend to show you how to do something and they leave out the most important part, which is painting the door. As soon as this area here is painted, it's going to highlight any of the areas, any imperfections, anything that you might become visible once it's painted. So on this channel, I like to show you guys from start to finish, and that's exactly what we're going to do. I'm going to paint this section of the door, probably about from here down to here, just to show you guys the finished product once it's actually painted, and we'll see if there's anything that's going to be highlighted once it's done. And after 2 coats of paint, this here is the finished product. Honestly, there is no way you'd be able to tell that there was a hole here, especially one that was around this size. Honestly, that's like a 10 out of 10. I can't get this any better. I'll bring you guys in a bit closer so you guys can see. And if you have a look there, there's my little squiggle. But that is absolutely perfect. Usually you can tell if you look side on, under a bit of light, but there is no way at all that you'd be able to tell this was previously patched or had a big hole. So it was somewhere around here, that big hole. The paint is now dry. Honestly, I'm super happy with that. I couldn't get it any better. There's no way that you'd be able to get this any better than that. So there you have it, guys. That's how to patch a hole in the door from start to finish to get a perfect result just like this using cornice cement. That's my little present to you guys. If you did want to replace a door, I've got plenty of videos on how to do it. I'd honestly still recommend it, but if you need to patch it for whatever reason, this is the easiest and the best way. Other methods are very, very fiddly and they cost a lot of money. This one here, we spent a little bit more time to feather it all out, but as you guys can see, it's definitely well worth it. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video, you've learned something new. As always, guys, like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, I'm Bill. Thanks for watching Billshowto.